but don't worry. I'm not going to put the organization at risk. I'm not going to say anything that's against, what we're doing. He said, okay. And right after the call, he said he got a call from the lead dev asking, do we really have to follow what Joe is saying? And my CISO, without even dropping a beat, he goes, whatever Joe said, you can assume I said it. Now, don't waste my time and don't waste Joe's time like that again. Like, he didn't even ask what the conversation was about or anything. He's like, I don't care at this point. Like, if Joe had to go through that, you're not dealing that to me.
You raise a great point. Having that curiosity is fantastic. I love working with people that share the same curiosity and the same passion. Yet, one of the pitfalls is what you're talking about, right? High level, fundamentally, our job comes with those challenges, right? Our job is not the most well received by the business.
It's like hated because all that we do is cost money and we slow things down and we make it more difficult. It's like a natural adversary to some extent, and I've been in environments where, man, I've been in environments where like the security was so bad that I wouldn't put my own personal information in their systems, like that's how bad it was. And I'm over here just recommending like best practices, just normal stuff. And I'm getting shot down and denied. And I'm like, all right, well, either we're going to get breached, like, or I need to like run for the hills before we get breached. Like that sort of situation where it's just like, and then it's refreshing when you come across an environment that embraces security, that actually includes you in things and whatnot.
I agree. I have some ideas that I've executed in those types of environments. I'm curious as to what you've done in additional environments, right? That you've had to deal with that. What have you done that has helped navigate that complexity?
Yeah. So, typically what I'll do is I'll get on the call with the leads, of whatever the product might be or whatever it might be. And I'll just explain to them, why it's important, like hey, I got the scan over here. This is the vulnerability. This is what it's telling me that it's doing. Right. And maybe we'll even test it out right there on the call because maybe I'm incorrect about something. Maybe there's a control that I don't know that exists, that they've already built in that handles it a different way, but the scanner still picks it up for some reason. If that's not the case, then we start going down the path of, okay, well, how do we actually resolve it? What does your time look like? Like how does the next sprint look like for you? All that sort of stuff. And really over communicating, right? So I'll do that call and then I like to hold people to what they're telling me. So I'm sending a follow-up email with potentially, their manager or my manager on it. Like, hey, we had this call, we discussed this, we agreed on this. Moving forward, it should be done by this date, right? And if it's not, if there's more pushback, then it goes up a level, right? So it just continues to go up until someone either accepts the risk officially or it gets taken care of. And so that's what I have found that typically works. It's worked, 9 out of 10 times, but that one time that it doesn't work, and that I don't want to say the one time that this process doesn't work, it was related to a single environment that it just nothing worked because it was a culture problem.
Yeah.
They were more focused on delivering features rather than sacrificing any sort of functionality in any way.
Yeah. For me, I was both in the IT perspective when dealing with the risks that were called out, as well as from the engineering perspective. So when I was the head of the SOC, I had to handle it from the perspective of, okay, here's the CVSS score, right? Here's how it's going to impact our systems, and here's the risk for us internally, right? So we need to prioritize this. We need to figure things out. And so to that end, it did involve a lot of what you're saying, especially the over communication and the transparency. But that's hard, right? It's hard to do from an IT perspective. When I was in engineering, when I was the head of my engineering team, it was a different story, right? I didn't necessarily have to worry about it from that perspective. For me, it was more of now I can have the capacity to shift left and in that whole engineering process, right? So shift it all the way left to where we're talking about it conceptually and working it into the architecture and into the designs so that we can start dealing with it right up front before it ever gets to the back end where the feature or the product is released. And then we're dealing with bugs and then we're dealing with handling that afterwards. So, it's interesting to deal with it from both perspectives. And I think it's good, to your point, to have as much diversity and perspective as possible, because then it gives you the tool set to be able to communicate to various people and to try and understand their concerns and to make sure that you are voicing their concerns appropriately so that they understand you understand and that you're addressing it in a way that is amenable to them and it's amenable to the customers and it's amenable to the business, right? So sometimes in our position, we have to kind of juggle that relationship too.
Yeah, I feel like that's a part that's often missed, in security, where we're more focused on telling someone no
Mhm.
rather than hearing their reason behind it and, understanding where they're coming from. Sorry, I'm like still getting over a cold that my kids gave me last week. It was very, very frustrating for me. It's like they're both home at the same time, sick with the exact same thing. It's like, oh my
I've been lucky. My kids have been sick, but I've gotten nothing.
Man, yeah, well, my kids, they're little, right? So 2.5 and 6 months old. And so my kids, when they get sick, all that they want to do is sit on my lap. So it's like inevitable that I'm going to get sick as well. It's just come on.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely been down that road. And I was walking past one of my kids the other day and he coughed right into my eye.
Kids, man. It's the joys of having kids.
I
It's
love being dad. Best job on the planet.
yeah, for sure. It's absolutely my most favorite thing. If I could stop everything else and just be a dad, that'd be amazing. But I didn't marry a lawyer, so can't do that. Well, Paul, like I wish I would have met you earlier on in my career when I was trying to get into, cybersecurity, because I'll tell you, it took me 2.5 years to actually get into cybersecurity and I was trying everything. I was on the help desk and I was forcing my way into doing vulnerability management for the company that I was at without having a security title. And I was getting certifications at the time. I was working on my master's at the time. I was applying to everything that said security analyst in the title, like any low level title. I had hundreds of applications over 2.5 years. And it took me that long because not many people were willing to take a quote unquote risk on me when I didn't have experience with Splunk or I didn't have experience, with Carbon Black or whatever. The tool was in their environment. I'm just sitting here like, I don't know how else I can prove to you that I'm ready to learn when I just don't have $10,000 laying around to pay for a Splunk license to deploy it in, our environment for 30 days, to learn it, right? Like, and how much am I really going to learn if I do that, right? It just, that was the most frustrating part for me. And, I eventually ran into a manager that had your same mentality where it was like, hey, he doesn't have to have all of the, hands on skills and experience.